Have you ever wondered why your skin feels like it's fighting against you, even when you're doing all the right things? Are you tired of dry patches, unexpected rashes, photosensitivity, or flares that seem to come out of nowhere? Well, what if I told you your skin isn't reacting? It's actually just communicating. If that sounds like you're not alone. So many women living with autoimmune disease struggle with sensitive, reactive, or unpredictable skin. And they often feel just really confused about what's actually happening beneath the surface. Welcome back to the Health Bridge podcast. I'm your host, Holly B, and I help women with autoimmune conditions reduce flares, restore energy, and rebuild trust with their bodies so they can show up fully for their lives again. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Kyle Landry, scientist and co founder of Delavie Sciences. We're diving into the science behind the skin barrier, inflammation, and the skin microbiome, and what women with autoimmune disease need to understand to better support their skin safely and confidently. By the end of this episode, you'll know how the skin microbiome influences immune balance and what simple evidence based steps you can take to protect and strengthen your skin. Stick around because we're answering the question: is your skincare helping your immune system or quietly working against it? Dr. Kyle Landry, welcome to the Health Bridge podcast. I'm so happy to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
So you have quite an interesting background and you've come kind of full circle now into skin health. I'll let you fill in some of those background details. I want to really get into a interesting discussion today about the skin microbiome, how that relates to the gut microbiome, and how women with autoimmune conditions who are experiencing different skin complications, itchiness, rashes, dry skin, how we can have a discussion that can give them some tips and things to consider when it comes to their skincare routine and how to best support them during their health issues and when they're having flare ups. So, for someone that's hearing this term for the first time, the skin microbiome, um, we might have heard about it when it is talked about with gut health, but we don't usually hear about that with skin health. So, can you just talk about the skin microbiome? Why does it matter when it comes to immune health overall? And throw in any of your background there as it pertains.
Yeah, so skin health or skin microbiome, I'll say we've all suffered from this at some point in our life. If you've had acne, pimples, boils, anything that has a slight infection on your face, you've had to deal with this. Maybe the term skin microbiome wasn't, so openly talked about at the time. But the skin microbiome is basically the bacterial makeup of your skin. And if it gets out of whack, or it's called dysbiosis, when there's an imbalance, it can lead to things like inflammation, acne, over oil production, itchiness, dry skin. Even if you get, the rogue fungus in there now and then, as you know, skin fungal infections can happen. That all throws off the skin microbiome. And the gut microbiome is well known, and people hear about it all the time. And there, of course, there's foods, fermented foods like kombucha and sauerkraut and tempeh, all these things that um, can help the gut microbiome. And you have, the probiotics you could take as well, in your yogurts and in the pills. And then the prebiotics, which the fiber and stuff to really help that. But the skin microbiome isn't really there yet because one, it's affected by the environment, right? I mean, your skin is exposed outside. It's not like you eat food and it's inside, right? So there's a lot of things that affect it. And two, your skin is subject to a lot of things you do, whether it's makeup or skincare, the soap you use, right? All of those, and even when you travel, all of those things can impact it. So it's great now, though, that people are understanding that these things drive the overall health and longevity of your skin. And I'm just excited to talk about it.
So, how did you get into skincare research in the first place?
Yeah, this is a long and winding road in the story. I'm actually a food scientist. I bachelor's, master's, PhD in food science. And I started teaching at Boston University in the nutrition department. for food science classes there as an adjunct lecturer. But the jump to skincare happened when we started working with NASA, believe it or not. So prior to this, I was actually part of a kind of like a a biotech company that focused on a lot of government applications. One of them was NASA. And when we were working with NASA, they introduced us to an organism that when they put it outside the International Space Station, it survived for 18 months. And when it was brought back down to Earth, they discovered that it had sun protection properties. So we decided to bring this into our research lab, and we worked on it for a handful of years. And we discovered that not only does it help with sun protection, enhancing SPF factors of sunscreen, but it hits a lot of longevity markers in the skin. Now, your listeners are probably thinking, well, how can a guy who studied food science and worked in bio company, biotech, know anything about longevity or skincare? Well, after the PhD, I was actually recruited by David Sinclair at Harvard Medical School. So that's where I started jumping into the world of longevity and understanding the pathways that drive longevity in the body. So my connections with food, my connections with nutrition and health, my connections and experience in longevity and genetics really put it all together in a nice package to really launch into this field. And so it's a long and winding road. There's a lot of other things in there, but I'm happy where I landed.
It sounds like a fun twist of events. Where did the you started with food science, so was
Mhm.
there any understanding of gut microbiome at that point in your journey?
Yeah. So when I started my research on bean sprouts, believe it or not, mung beans, alfalfa, broccoli, and I was looking at the microbial populations on these products and microgreens in general and how they can impact your gut, right? So the use of probiotics is very interesting because a lot of people think it has to come from supplements, when in fact all of it comes from food in theory. And in practicality, it all comes from food. But now with the supplement market, people don't really look at food as either a pre or a probiotic. They look at it as, oh, I'm just eating it, but I need to take these things. So understanding the gut microbiome in that sense and how food impacts it started there. And then this just led on a journey of looking at other things called biofilms, which is how bacteria grow in environments. And these are the simplest biofilm I can talk to you about that everyone relates to is like, if you scrape your tooth and that white stuff comes off after a long day, that's all the bacteria growing on your teeth, making a film which eventually can lead to cavities over time. So understanding how bacteria grow and survive in your gut in combination with foods that you put in really helped drive that. And outside of the gut, I've worked on the skin microbiome, and I've even published a paper, and I'm working on another paper right now on the effect of bacteria on some surgeries like breast reconstructive surgery, whether, post-cancer or just pure plastic applications, because the microbiome of that is also indicative of if it's going to be successful surgery or not. So I've been skin, gut, and now plastic operations for the microbiome.
And so, how can we make the connection between the gut microbiome and the skin microbiome, especially when it applies to autoimmune conditions or people struggling with skin issues?
Yeah, so inflammation is the name of the game. And whether it's leaky gut syndrome, IBS, Crohn's, whatever you have there for um, an ailment with the gut, it's very similar to with the skin, right? Psoriasis, eczema, edema, rosacea, itchiness, breakouts. It all has to do with driving inflammation. And the microbiome is an important part because it can either accelerate, control, or actually minimize inflammation. So with the gut, if you have an imbalance, whether it's from diet or contamination or infection from another organism, that can really spike up inflammation. And for people who don't understand or can think about what that means is if you have celiacs or if you have some other type of allergy to food, when you eat that allergen, it causes an immune response. And that immune response leads to inflammation, and that causes, the white blood cells to go there, but also all the other things, itchiness, swelling, diarrhea, loose stools, upset stomach. All of that is an immune response to the thing that is causing the allergen inflammation response. So with the skin, it's the same thing, where you can have an allergen or something go to your skin, and the gut and the skin microbiome can help mitigate that response. Or if the bacteria is not in sync, it can actually accelerate that and cause inflammation. So you want to balance them so that you have the beneficial effects and the protective effects to minimize these reactions or inflammation responses that can happen.
Hey, I just wanted to jump in here and interrupt the program for just a hot minute. You know that I'm so passionate about this podcast, but what I'm also really passionate about is helping women with lupus minimize their symptoms, boost their energy so that they can indulge in life again. So if you are a woman who is struggling with lupus, who is sick and tired of being sick and tired, who's struggling to manage your flares, if you're finding that your lupus symptoms are just really getting in the way of you being able to live your life the way you want to, I feel you. I've been there myself and I felt the same way. And what I've found is that there are a certain set of health fundamentals that once applied, will support you in your foundational health. They will support you in building and maintaining that energy, minimizing flares, and allowing you to, again, indulge in life and follow your passions. So, if that is something that you are interested in creating for yourself, let's jump on a call together. I will walk you through the process that I use with my clients to get them from sick and tired to strong foundation of health by implementing my Health Bridge protocol. If this is something you're interested in chatting more about, I would love to talk to you. Apply for a free clarity call with me, and I look forward to getting to know you soon. And now back to the episode. And you mentioned earlier 3 different things: probiotics,
Mhm.
prebiotics, postbiotics. We hear, again, a lot about that when it comes to the supplement market, but can you
Mhm.
dive in a little bit more for those that aren't familiar, what each of those are, what they do,
Yeah.
and why they're important?
So the first one, I'll start in the middle. A probiotic is a living organism that you ingest. So in supplements, if you take the pills or you take powders, they're usually dormant or spores of an organism with the idea when you eat them, they will start growing in your body. Now, when you eat foods are loaded with bacteria, I know people don't like to think that, but if you eat a fermented food or you drink kombucha tea, which is one of my favorite things, you are drinking live bacteria that fermented that tea. And that in itself is a probiotic, right? Same thing with kimchi or any other fermented food. So a probiotic is ingesting foods or ingesting something that has live cultures in them with the idea that some will stay and grow in your intestines. Now, the problem with probiotics is they don't really stay. They're transient. So like you'll eat them and maybe they'll stay for a day or so. So you really have to constantly be ingesting them to get benefits for the probiotics. Um, Prebiotics, I'll go now to that one, are things that promote the growth of healthy bacteria in your gut. And these are very, very important because when we're born and through our gut is constantly changing based on what we eat. And a great example is if someone all of a sudden switches to vegetarianism or being a vegan, right, after having a regular diet, you have a lot of upset stomachs, a lot of gas, a lot of interesting bowel movements, be frank, until your gut microbiome adjusts to that type of diet. And it's the same thing. If you've been vegan for a long time and all of a sudden you eat a hamburger, your stomach and gut is not going to be excited because one, your body has to get back to digesting all of that. But two, the bacteria in your gut is not optimized to break that stuff down. So you will have, again, gas, loose stools, all these other things that are not pleasant, ideal to have. So eating prebiotics, and now these, they sell supplements for this too, but honestly, lettuce is a prebiotic. Any fruit or vegetable is a prebiotic. It's things that the bacteria use as food. So you don't necessarily have to be drinking powdered vegetables. You could just eat a salad and eat things high in fiber to really help act as a prebiotic. And finally, a postbiotic are things or beneficial compounds that the bacteria in your gut make. So the whole idea here is you want to eat foods that help the bacteria and healthy bacteria grow in your gut. You want to ensure you maintain a level of healthy bacteria by eating probiotics or foods that have bacteria in it. So then you can benefit from the postbiotics, which are all the antioxidants, conjugated linoleic acids, all of these things that are beneficial and protective to our body. Now they also sell prebiotics to take as a supplement. And I believe that you can get the best way to do this is through food. Supplements are, I would say, a nice to have, or if eating salads or eating healthy food is not an option. But honestly, I would say focus on doing that. You're going to get more benefits from the food than you would for a supplement in that regard. But that's the breakdown of those three things.
And then how does that translate to skin microbiome?
Yeah. So, as you know, the things we eat affect our whole body, and things that drive oil production or drive irritation in the skin will then affect the skin microbiome over time. If there's more oil, then the organisms or the bacteria that thrive in that environment will grow more than the organisms that can't or don't want that in that environment. And that's when you start getting the dysbiosis or the imbalance. And then you'll get plugged pores, you'll have those grow out, you'll have acne, you'll have all these other things that start compounding. And unfortunately, people will think, oh, I need a lot of products to treat this. Usually, if you sit back and look at, okay, what am I eating? How's my personal hygiene? How is, my sleep? How is that going? You can tailor, dial that in, unless it's hormonal, right? Hormonal is a completely different subject. But just looking at your overall lifestyle, you should be able to dial that in. And then the wild card, though, is your environment. Like, what are you getting from where you're going? Are you going to the gym all the time? Okay, that's great. What's that bacterial look like? Do you have pets? That transfers over. Do you go swimming and you have chlorine all the time? That impacts it, right? That dries out your skin physically, but that also has an impact on the bacteria. So then you want to make sure that you have a routine or an environment or, how your daily life is to ensure that, yeah, you may have an impact on your skin microbiome, but you want to make sure you bring it back. And it's not as simple though as eating prebiotics and probiotics with food. Like this is where for the skin, it's starting to grow. We're starting to fully understand the impact it has.
I'm really glad that you're talking about this because in studying holistic health and going through Western herbalism classes, we learned that what you put inside your body will come out on the skin if there's
Mhm.
irritation. And when it comes to working with women with autoimmune conditions, something that I see so often is that they're compartmentalizing things if they're coming from the Western point of view. So, doctor says, "Oh, what you eat doesn't matter. This is a condition that you can't do anything about. We can't cure it. We're just gonna manage your symptoms, right, with a bunch of medication." I'm not saying don't take the medication if you need it. What I'm saying is there are so many other lifestyle factors that could be adding to those symptoms. So if we're talking about something like dry, itchy skin or even photosensitivity with women with lupus, uh, I find that some of those symptoms are actually caused more by lifestyle than the disease or condition itself. So, are we eating a sugar laden diet? do we have leaky gut that needs to be addressed? If you have an autoimmune condition, I would say probably 99% chance, yes, you have a leaky gut, and we have to do some healing there because you have a leaky gut. It's affecting you systemically with inflammation, and that's coming out in all kinds of different ways on and creating symptoms. So yeah, I think that we have to pay such close attention, especially when we're at the point where we're in autoimmune symptoms, to our lifestyle and
Yeah.
address those things. And as we address those things, then we can clear up some of those symptoms and then see where we're at medication wise and see, do we really need that high of a dose? Can we taper off? What are things starting to look like now?
Yeah, I agree 100%. There are a lot of things, especially if you have leaky gut. Remember, if you have leaky gut, that means the space between the cells in your lining are big enough where things can pass through and go directly into the bloodstream. So normally the epithelial cells that line the intestine act as a filter, right, for toxins and allergens and other things. They kind of are a gatekeeper. With leaky gut, you basically have holes in the fence. So these things can come in. So to your point, if you're eating something that, triggers inflammation in the body that exacerbates your autoimmune system, it could be because you're eating, it could be your life, it could be high sulfur, even some vegetables that have high sulfur content, right? Like Brussels sprouts. You may love them, but some of that may be impacting some inflammation, right? So stepping back and having the whole systemic view is very important because everything impacts everything. It's, um, as an educator, it's the same thing. It's students focus in and be like, okay, organic chemistry is only organic chemistry. Biochemistry is only bio. It's like, no, they are all the same thing and they all connect. And it's the same thing with health and wellness. Everything, whether it's going out in the sun, going for a run, eating the food you do, how much sleep you get. Mental wellness as well is very important. You have high anxiety, you have high stress. You're priming the body to have an immune response or an inflammation response to something that may not have as much of a response if you were more relaxed and grounded, right? There's so many things that drive it, but we tend, like you said, to think, oh, if I have upset stomach, I just need to do this. Or if I have this, there's no real simple thing. It's you have to look at your whole life as one thing. And unfortunately, most people don't want to look at themselves and be like, oh, I'm the problem.
Nobody wants to be the
No,
problem.
no one wants to be the problem, but I feel like once you figure that out and you start feeling better and you start, in seeing the benefits, it's a rolling effect, just like going to the gym, right? The first few months are horrible, but then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I feel better. I can sleep better. I look better. I've been able to lose some weight. It's more drive to keep it going. It's the same thing with overall wellness.
Absolutely. And when I'm working with women, we do take that high view approach. We look at everything, but we're not trying to fix everything at once. We're doing small, consistent steps at a time, and they accumulate and snowball as you go. But you might not see the change in the moment. But the
Yeah.
important part to know is that it's that consistency that builds and builds and builds, and we can tweak things as we go, and we can figure out how to implement things as we go. But if you try to do a whole life overhaul all at once, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah, I have a saying I love this saying. It's an adage I learned from someone a long time ago. I don't know where it's from directly, but it's inch by inch, life's a cinch, yard by yard, life is hard. And it's the same thing with anything you do. If you try to change everything right away and it's not sustainable, you're going to fail. It's not going to work. But if you can make sustainable changes, small incremental steps that you can hold out throughout, a long period of time. And like you said, you do it for a while, then it becomes normal. So then you add another little change, then that becomes normal. All of a sudden, you've had a significant impact and shift from your old habits without even knowing it. That's very important. People tend to be like, "Oh, I'm gonna only eat 1,200 calories, only eat salads, go to the gym twice a day." That's not sustainable. But if you just say, "Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna eat snacks past 7:30 at night." That's then, oh, then that becomes norm. Okay, Now I'm going to go for a 10-minute walk at least once a day. And you start building those healthy habits. All of a sudden, in a few months, you've completely, done a 180.
I love that. So let's talk more about topical skincare, because obviously we're promoting like we have to look at the whole lifestyle, what could be triggering the inflammation, what could be triggering the things that are coming out on the skin. But
Mhm.
we also need to look from a top down approach of what can we do from the outside in, because this itchy rash or this dry skin is an issue and it's irritating me. So how do I start looking at it from that point of view as well? What do we need to do for combating things and from that
Mhm.
approach? Really quick, Holly B here. I just wanted to interrupt the podcast to ask you for a quick favor. Can you take just a moment to like and subscribe to this podcast on whatever platform you are listening in on? It makes a world of a difference, and the reach of this podcast, it takes like literally under 10 seconds. So go do that right now. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And now back to the episode. Ouch.
So for photosensitivity, hyperpigmentation, sunburns, I would say right away sunscreen is number one type of protection. There are mineral sunscreens that use zinc, right? That and titanium for that. There's also the traditional sunscreens that use the chemical UV filters. I would just say anyone is better than no sunscreen, especially if you're out in the sun all the time and you have photosensitivity or you're easily burned, because those things, even though they seem innocent, elevate inflammation. I mean, what is a sunburn? A sunburn is basically your cells were cooked so much that there's massive inflammation across your whole body, right? That is what a sunburn is. And what's funny is in your youth, you're like, oh, I don't mind it. I don't care. But, 30 years go by, then you see all the issues that developed from that, with aging skin, dark spots, sunspots, excess wrinkles, right? So just like everything else, it creeps up upon you. So I would say sunscreen is very important. And then secondly, find a very simple routine for skin. We live in a time where every skincare brand has like 50 products, 50 different serums, 50 different lotions, and you don't know what to use. So you end up using them all. All of a sudden, you have a 30-step routine that takes 25 minutes, and then your skin can actually sometimes get worse. And then you're like, oh my God, what's happening? Oh, I'm going to buy more products. Maybe you should say, let me dial back and find, one good serum and one good general moisturizer and start there. When I talk to people all the time, they're like, oh, I'm always worried if I stop using it, I'm going to lose the effects. I'm like, you can always just reuse them after a month or so. I mean, and if they really do work like they're saying, and it's great, you should go back to what it was after missing it for a month. And what people end up finding is when they cut back on the products, their skin actually gets healthier. It's actually balanced. It's becoming more normal state instead of being adjusted to all these different things. So again, simpler is better. You don't need 5 serums, 6 lotions, all this stuff. You just need to find something that is compatible with your skin, that you don't mind using. It fits into your routine. You like the feel, you like the thing, and it's at a price point that you can tolerate, and that you can is sustainable like that. And then having 1 or 2 products that you use consistently will give you better results than trying 20 products and then not using half of them and skipping this and not, and you go on vacation or you travel a lot, you only bring half of them all the time, right? It's consistency is the name of the game here for that.
And by the way, I can totally relate to that. I used to work for an integrative pharmacy. I worked with the supplements and vitamins, but we had some really beautiful skincare lines, and things were always shifting and reps were always dropping stuff off. So I was trying this, I was trying that all the time, changing my routine. And it was like, well, I don't know if anything's working or my skin would erupt. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, maybe we're just doing too much.
That's what it is. And making sure things are non-comedogenic, which means they don't plug your pores. And now with the microbiome, finding things that are actually beneficial or help balance it is the future for that.
Yeah. And I definitely find that when I have tailored my skincare routine down to simplicity, that works the best.
Mhm.
Absolutely works the best. So, as far as you have a very interesting specific bacteria, I think it is, that you put
Mhm.
into your skincare products. And this ties us back into the earlier conversation about space
Yeah.
travel.
Yeah, it does.
Tell us more about that.
So I'll step back even more. So my expertise is on something called extremophiles. So these are organisms that live in extreme environments. And you may say, well, why or how the heck does that relate to longevity? That doesn't make any sense. Well, somehow these organisms have evolved to live in these environments that are normally detrimental to life. Like we would not survive in them, things would mutate, break down, but somehow these organisms have mechanisms or machineries that protect them from all of these stuff, all the stuff that's detrimental. So I am like, how can we learn from them, leverage them to take those protective benefits and apply it to ourselves? Because, if nature has found a way, another thing, I always like quote Jurassic Park, nature will find a way. Well, obviously it did because these things are living in environments or surviving in space, right? Like these things shouldn't be there. So this is the background. So that's why I started and had interest with this organism from NASA, because, like I said, they put this bacteria outside the space station for a year and a half. And when it came back down, it actually had some very interesting properties. And what we found was that it actually activated longevity pathways in your cells, specifically the sirtuins. So sirtuins are ancient housekeeping enzymes, and basically they help repair DNA damage and bring your cells back to efficiency or to be the most effective or efficient form they can. When you fast, these are activated. When you exercise, these are activated. When you sleep well, low stress, these are activated. And that's why those things are often linked to improved health, right? You're activating these pathways that have to make your body be as efficient and effective as possible. So we found that this organism activates, the postbiotic of this organism activates certain one in particular. It also activates your cell's ability to make its own hyaluronic acid. Now, anyone and anywhere in skincare knows hyaluronic acid is a go-to ingredient. The problem is all the hyaluronic acid in products may not penetrate your skin. And if they do, it's temporary. So nothing is better than your body's own hyaluronic acid. So this organism actually has compounds that accelerate the pathways in your own cells to make your own natural hyaluronic acid by over 200%, which is great for plumping, firmness, elasticity. And then finally, the last one is that it's a very potent antioxidant, and not just general antioxidant, it's also potent at stopping free radicals or things that cause inflammation or drive oxidation from UVA exposure. Now, UVA is the rays of the sun that accelerate wrinkle formation. So this actually can help stop the free radical chemistry that leads to wrinkle formation in your skin before it actually starts, right? So you have a protective measure, you have a repair measure, and then you have an overall efficiency measure by increasing the cell viability in hyaluronic acid. So this is why we ended up in skincare, because we found this organism. It had these amazing properties, and we were like, how can we leverage this? I mean, it's patented. There's NASA patent, NASA publications on it. It's well known. It's legitimate science, legitimate research on this. So we know there's strong credibility. How can we make products around this? And that's what our first line was around this organism.
So, again, this seems to get back to just nutrition. This kind of gets back to nutrition. So, giving the body what it needs to support its own systems, its own productions of healing properties.
Yeah.
You're saying, we're supporting its natural hyaluronic acid production and supporting collagen production. We can
Yeah.
do that both internally through the foods that we have, the lifestyle that we have, and then also topically with this product, it sounds like.
Yeah, we're age defying. We're not anti-aging. Our terms are age defying because in reality, you can never reverse your age, but you can defy your age by bio-optimizing your body. And this is something that we focus on. We are bio-optimizing your skin to be the best it can be at its current state. Make it the most beautiful, most effective, most efficient skin, and then protect it moving forward. I will go out and say there's no way you can take your skin and reverse it 30 years. Like you can with some markers, but you're still, there's limits there for the general people, general population. But you can make your current skin be the best it can be and then help minimize future damage. And that's what bio-optimizing in our products do and our ingredients do for that. And tying this with nutrition, exercise, sleep, wellness, and overall mindset really will be the whole holy grail for all your wellness in general, right? I mean, if you think about it, if you start, I don't want to say looking good because everyone looks good, but if you notice positive effects on your skin, you start feeling more confident, you feel better. All of a sudden, this ties in with better sleep, ties in with you feeling better with nutrition. All of a sudden, you have less stress because you have more confidence, and it's a snowball effect from all of it. But if you just look at one thing as a singular thing, it's not. You'll hit some things, but the other stuff is still going to be following. So yeah, and it's simple. One product, two products. It's not designed, you don't have to buy 30 things. It's very intentional in how it's formulated and what it does.
One thing I've noticed, this is a point I was trying to remember to make earlier, is that you had mentioned, say, when you're changing up your diet, like if you've always been
Hmm.
vegetarian and now you're converting to a more keto carnivore diet, you're probably going to have some tummy upset or vice versa, right?
Hmm.
You're going to have some issues to work out along the way. I've noticed too with myself in changing skincare routines, sometimes blemishes come up or, you get some zits or something, and that's not necessarily meaning that the products aren't vibing with you. It could just mean that we're shifting the skin microbiome, right?
100%. And what I would recommend is for anyone who's doing a drastic change, is that you give yourself a week of nothing. And it's going to be hard. People are like, oh my God. So I would say still use your cleanser or, wash your face, use that and use some makeup. But in terms of your routines, slowly dial back and then give your skin time to reset before trying something. Because not only could it be a skin thing, but sometimes products like brands aren't formulated necessarily to work with other brands. So it could just be an interaction with something else you're using, and there's no real way to know unless you cold cut it and be like, okay, I'm going to try this one now and use it, like you said, for a few weeks. Because again, you may just be resetting or adjusting to the product. Now, obviously, if it hurts or it stings or a bright red, like there's actual a reaction, then you can stop. But if you're just a little tingly, or maybe after a few days as a breakout, you just wait and let it go and reset and slowly add products to it if you want to. I would say don't just do a crash course and go from this routine all the way to something else and expect there to be no repercussions for that. But yeah, you're right on that.
Yeah, I'm thinking about when I went keto and cut out all carbs. There was, uh there was a few days there that was really, really tough, or really
And
uncomfortable.
And if people, there's something that happens, another thing, like people always say eating beans gives you upset stomach, right? But if you eat beans consistently, after a week or two, you don't have that problem anymore. And that's because the bacteria in your gut have shifted to optimally break down the bean starch so that you don't have gas production. Right. So it's the same thing. Your body is a living thing. I know we don't like to think about that. We don't like to think that we're full of bacteria and mites and things crawling all over us, but we are. We are basically a living planet for organisms. We're like a microplanet on a planet for what we have. In any dramatic shift, the organisms have to adjust. It's just like Here in New England, we had 3 feet of snow. Oh my God, we have to adjust. We have to adjust. The same thing happens when you change your diet, you change your skincare routine, you change your habits of any way. You need time for your body to adjust.
So basically what you're saying is treat skincare change like you might treat if you were trying to figure out your diet. Maybe do an elimination diet first
Yep.
and then slowly reintroduce.
Yeah, and nothing's going to be instant, right? You need time for it to work. I mean, the things I talked about with our ingredient in our line, your body has to get primed. So it'll take a week or two for all those pathways to get up and going. And then you'll just continually benefit. The ones that work instantly usually only last for just as long as it took for you to notice the instant. So, there's some out there that say they've removed bags or they remove this, but they only last for an hour because it's more of a physical effect of like putting super glue on your face than it is actually addressing the
Root
issue.
cause, yeah.
Yeah, it's a different impact. Yeah.
As we wrap up here, are there any common skin myths or skincare myths that you want to address?
Yeah, I think the more is better is not what you want. You want to have the simplest routine that you can do consistently and maintain for as long as you see fit. There's a few other myths that there's one that, sunscreen impacts vitamin D. Not really. I mean, you get sun all the time. And, when you go to the beach and you're laying in pure sun and get incinerated, you've probably already generated enough vitamin D just walking out of your, house and going there. So those things, you have to weigh the benefits, right? And be like, okay, you get vitamin D from food, you do all this other stuff. Protecting myself from acute damage like sunburn and then potential long-term damage like skin cancer, I think is more important than the amount of vitamin D you miss out, if any, from putting on sunscreen. That's a big one. And then, I mean, it could go all over the place, right? Like, do you need like what is needed? I think those are the main two I want to talk about, but also like everything you eat impacts everything from your mood to your energy level to your skin. So you want to make sure you're putting as much effort into finding foods that work for you and that are the best for you as you do for things like skincare and hair care. And it's so funny, people usually don't do that. They probably put most for skincare and hair care and other things that don't address the main issue. And you want to make sure you have a solid foundation: sleep, food, exercise, and mental awareness or wellness. That solid foundation, if that is not tuned in or becoming tuned in, anything else you bolt on top of it is not going to be effective. Cold plunges aren't going to do anything if you don't have good rest and good diet. It's the same thing, but people are quick to want the one quick solution for something instead of just trying to address the foundation.
I agree 100% with that, and I try to shout that from the rooftops every chance I get. We're so trained, I guess, to want that magic pill,
Mm-hmm.
and,
Mm-hmm.
it just doesn't exist. It just doesn't
Yeah.
exist. We have to actually address, like you said, we have to address our whole lifestyle, address our stress levels. For me, stress is the biggest emotional stress in particular is the biggest trigger for any kind of flare up.
Yeah.
And so, what does that tell me? Well, that tells me that my lifestyle has a huge impact on my health, just that alone. So, yeah, addressing all of those things will even help our skin out.
Yeah, and yeah, it's so amazing the stress levels of what it does because it affects your sleep, it affects what you eat, right? So like stress can affect binge eating, it can affect sleeping, it can affect your overall appearance because you're tired or depressed. It affects your appearance, it affects your hygiene. So then all of a sudden that is out, and that's a feedback loop in the opposite direction. So it's like, how do you balance being in the positive feedback versus the negative, or they're both positive, but that type of situation, uh,
Mhm.
feedback loop. And Anything that you could do to give you one leg up to make you feel a little better to start compounding those positives is what you need to do.
Kyle, this has been a really great conversation. Tell everyone just a little more about your products and where they can find you.
Yeah, so our skincare products are the company's name is Delavie Sciences, and we have one line Aeonia, which features the organism that tackles the longevity pathways that we talked about. And we have a gentle serum that has the seal of approval by the National Eczema Association. So the gentle serum has the approval for eczema psoriasis. We had to do extensive safety testing and efficacy testing on those populations. So if you're looking for something that is simple to use, easy, great hydration, hits the longevity markers, compatible, and is also approved, has a seal approval by the National Eczema Association and Psoriasis Association, I would say give that one a try. We also have a second line called Layer One. This is a very gentle face wash and toner. And this ingredient is actually comes from Harvard Medical School. And this helps unplug the pores, remove the oil. And both of them are beneficial for the skin microbiome. They're certified for that. So they help balance that while hitting the longevity pathways. And you can find us at Delavie Sciences on Instagram, or TikTok, and then you can find me at Kyle S. Landry, PhD on Instagram. Or if you want to be more professional on LinkedIn, you can find me there too, Kyle S. Landry.
Awesome. Such a great conversation. I have been using your products for the last several weeks and am enjoying them very much. So definitely anybody that's interested, I recommend you give them a try for sure. I think especially with that gentle serum
Mm-hmm.
for our autoimmune listeners that might be having that more sensitive skin reactions. That is a definite way I would go. So thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate your expertise.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much to Dr. Kyle Landry for sharing his scientific perspective and expertise today. I hope you're walking away with a clearer understanding of how the skin barrier, microbiome, and immune system all work together, and with practical steps that you can take to care for your skin without fear. If this episode spoke to you, just remember you don't have to navigate autoimmunity alone. I'd love to support you on your journey. You can find my free daily Thrive Guide and wellness tracker in the show notes. And you can also apply for a free healing breakthrough call if you're ready to go deeper. Until next time, take a deep breath, give yourself grace, and keep building your bridge back to health.